And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Starting the marine segment here with marine forecast for the south coast tomorrow. South winds 15 to 25 knots. North coast here east to south at 15 to 20 knots. A little breezy there for Lynn Canal, southeast 25, gust 40, southeast 20 for Stevens Passage and Clarence Strait. And for Wednesday, that big strong front coming in toward the coastline there. Gale warnings all along the coast here. South coast, southeast 45 knots. And for the north coast here, east winds 40 to 50 knots. Lynn Canal north at 30 knots, southeast at 30 for Stevens Passage. Gale warnings also out for Clarence Strait for southeast winds of 40 knots with 17-foot seas. Prince William Sound tomorrow, by contrast, light variable winds there at 10, and east to northeast winds 20 knots for the North Gulf Coast, including the Barren Islands, Kamishak Bay, and southern Cook Inlet. Northern Cook Inlet, northeast at 10. For the day Wednesday, northern Cook Inlet, northeast at 20. Otherwise here south of the Forelands, small craft advisories north 25. Northeast winds 25 knots for Kamishak Bay, the Barren Islands, the western North Gulf Coast, eastern North Gulf Coast. Northeast winds 30 to 35 knots. Prince William Sound north at 15. Kodiak Island for the day Tuesday, northeast winds 15 to 20 knots. Northwest at 10 for Bristol Bay. Alaska Peninsula, light variable winds. And for Wednesday, Alaska Peninsula again, a couple really laid down wind days coming up there. Light and variable conditions continue. North at 10 for Bristol Bay. Kodiak Island north to northeast 20 to 25 knots. Eastern Aleutians tomorrow, north to northwest winds at 15 knots. And for the western Aleutians here, looking at westerlies, 15 to 20 knots. And the western Aleutians, north to northwest, 15 to 20. And then for Wednesday, western Aleutians, north winds 20 knots. And for the central Aleutians, variable winds at 10 knots here. And about the same for the eastern Aleutians, variable winds 10 to 15 knots. Southwest coast tomorrow, northeast at 10. And for the Pribilofs, northwest at 15. Small craft advisories for northeast winds 25 there for St. Matthew Island. And 15 to 20 knots for Norton Sound and St. Lawrence Island out of the northeast. For the day Wednesday, brisk wind advisories here for Norton Sound, east winds 25 knots. Otherwise, St. Lawrence Island, Yukon Delta Coast, east at 15. East at just 10 knots now for the Kuskokwim Delta Coast. Light variable winds for the Pribilofs and northeast at 25 for St. Matthew Island. For the Chukchi Sea tomorrow, northeast 10 to 20 knots. Western Arctic coast here, still looking at brisk wind advisories, east 25 to 30 knots. Significantly lighter there in the west coast, north at 10. And light west winds at 10 knots for the eastern Beaufort Sea coastline. Then for Wednesday, those all switch east up here, 15 knots for the central and eastern coastline. Western coast, east at 20. And for the Chukchi Sea, a little bit of an increase in the winds there, east to northeast at 15 to 25 knots.